From the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
Hello there and a warm welcome to our primetime bulletin here on Joy News on Multi TV and also on ABN TV across Europe. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. Ahead in the bulletin tonight, NPP flag bearer confirms economist and central banker Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as his running mate for 2016 presidential election. Health workers at public hospitals suspend outpatient care as public sector workers strike over Tier 2 pension contributions enters day 2. Meanwhile, health insurance service providers are threatening to deny services to NHIS subscribers by October 30 unless government pays them outstanding claims of about 100 million Ghana cedis. Driver Vehicle Licensing Authority to introduce electronic roadworthy certificate as it seeks to make its issuance more foolproof. And Director of Legon Center for International Affairs criticizes the African Union's response to Ebola outbreak here in West Africa. Those are the headlines. We'll bring you the details shortly. Please stay. On to the details now. And flag bearer of the new patriotic party, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, on Thursday confirmed Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as his running mate for the 2016 presidential elections. Addressing a news conference after Dr. Bawumia's endorsement by the party's National Council, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo highlighted the economic prowess of the former Deputy Central Bank Governor. He says makes him the ideal candidate to help transform the country's economy.
Nana Akufo-Addo made the pronouncement after a National Council meeting held at the party's headquarters Thursday afternoon. The meeting, which was attended by the party's bigwigs, including former President John Agyekum Kufuor, is said to have unanimously endorsed the 2012 running mate as the person best suited to pair up with Akufo-Addo in the 2016 election. Nana Akufo-Addo said he's looking forward to mobilizing a strong economic team to revive the fortunes of the country.
The economy was always going to be the main battleground for the 2016 elections. But the dire situation the country has been plunged into by the incompetence of the John Dramani Mahama administration makes the presence of Dr. Bawumia on the NPP presidential ticket even more appropriate. Luckily, there is a real chemistry between the two of us as well. And I look forward to us leading the team that will ensure an NPP victory in 2016. I am confident that he will make an outstanding Vice President of the Republic and good manager of the economy who will help me reverse the decline of the economy. If Almighty God and the Ghanaian people favor us with the opportunity of service come January 2017.
Meanwhile, the party says the selection of Dr. Bawumia as running mate is a clear indication of its readiness to transform the country's economy once it assumes power. Party chairman Paul Afoko, in an interview with Joy News, said the party has resolved to do things differently and was confident of victory in the next general election.
You see, that is where I think I would like the NDC to go on believing that nothing has changed and therefore they are going to beat us. Let them believe that, because that is to our advantage. What has changed? Ask yourself, when you look at the party, what has changed? Paul Afoko is sitting here, backed by a whole new executive. And that executive is drawing up its strategies, which we will unfurl. And tactically, we are taking the battle to where it really matters.
The decision to select Dr. Bawumia as running mate for the NPP is reported to have been taken with inputs from all 7 aspirants who contested the flag bearership.
For the moment, It is enough to introduce you formally, ladies and gentlemen, the NPPT for the 2016 presidential election. Nana Addo Akufo-Addo and Mahamudu Bawumia.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwabena Chenchen Heneboating.
Dr. Bawumia has meanwhile expressed profound gratitude to Nana Addo Akufo-Addo and the party for reposing confidence in him a third time. In an interview with Joy News at his residence shortly after the announcement, he expressed confidence that Ghana would be much better off under an NPP administration.
I'm very, very humbled, as I said, but I'm very optimistic about the future. I believe that if by the grace of God, we have an opportunity to govern this country, we will do tremendously well. I really believe so. I believe that with the team and the vision and the dedication that we will take to the management of the affairs of this country under the leadership of Nana Akufo-Addo, it will be starkly different from what we are seeing today in Ghana, and therefore the resulting suffering that we are seeing of the people from the policies of the current government. I believe that we can make a change in that direction, and this is what gives me hope for the future, that whilst it might look bleak now, I think by 2016, when, by the grace of God, Nana Akufo-Addo wins this presidential election and we get into government in 2017, we will start a process of transformation that the whole of Ghana would see the stark difference between a government of the NPP led by Nana Akufo-Addo and the current NDC government.
Now, public sector workers in the Ashanti region have joined the industrial action by labor unions demanding the release of their Tier 2 pension contributions. The indefinite strike was declared by more than 10 unions on Tuesday. Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin in the following report, however, says staff in the judicial service were at work today, explaining no official communication has reached them on the directive.
In the early hours of Wednesday, patients at the Kumfanochi Teaching Hospital were already seated waiting for doctors to attend to them. They told Joy News off camera doctors were attending to them. The story, however, changed shortly thereafter at the outpatients department after the nurses served notice they would no longer attend to patients until further notice. Some of the doctors who were at post explained they were in support of the action because they believed that was the only way to get government to act.
In the last 10 years, I haven't been on strike. If it's a protest or a demonstration, I will join and come back to work. It's a personal reason. So in the last 10 years, I've not been on strike. But suffice it to say that I fully support the action by organized labor. I fully support the action of organized labor. See, our pensions, Tier 2 pensions, have been deducted since 2010. And we have not managed to get a common fund to invest the money so that by the time that you go on pension, that money would have yielded some dividends for you and cushioning you during your pensionable days. You see, the idea of creating the 3-tier pension is very, very good. But alas, our own doings are undoing the gains that are inherent in the law.
He, however, conceded the strike tends to take a toll on patients.
I'm a reproductive and a family planning person. For instance, you see, if somebody misses their contraceptive appointment, it could result in an unintended pregnancy. So being around, it comes in quite handy for our clients, and I'm sure they will be happy about that. It's not easy, but sometimes you will just have to try and stretch yourself and help in other areas, especially emergencies where personnel is simply not available.
He advised the government to confront the issues head-on and be truthful to the labor unions since they are made up of logical people.
While I personally do not enjoy the things that strikes bring in their wake, it also behoves on us that we should make genuine effort to build strong institutions. I don't know if this is fair to say on national TV, but doctors are a group of people who don't like their intelligence to be insulted. If you feel you have a genuine problem, just explain to them And I'm sure they will understand. If you play, you know, Tom and Jerry games with them, they will not be happy with you. So my advice to government is, and the leadership is that let us confront the issues head on, and let us be truthful.
Meanwhile, the regional branch of the Judicial Services Staff Association of Ghana is yet to receive an official communication to embark on the strike. A report by Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin.
Well, we're still with industrial action, and day 2 of the strike also appeared to have seen a lot more compliance here in Accra than day 1. Correspondents say the Kolebu Teaching Hospital was deserted as health workers stayed away. The strike was announced on Tuesday, but doctors, teachers and other public sector workers were largely at post on Wednesday, prompting a further directive from the union leaders, which appear to have been respected this time round. The Ghana Medical Association announced that it was withdrawing its outpatient services and that only emergency services and inpatients would be taken care of. So those were pictures from the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Meanwhile, government will next week meet with labor unions striking over their Tier 2 pension contributions. Deputy Minister of Employment and Labor Relations, Baba Jamal, speaking on today's big story, said the meeting on Tuesday, October 28, is expected to get the unions to call off their strike.
There are other processes they can follow. Which are? We have other process. We have also other options to take. So the issue here is that if we wait for them and they don't come, of course, there are options to open to us.
What are those options?
Of course, we have legal options. We can go. We will surely report to the Labour Commission, and we'll go on and ensure that the right things are done. So, but we thought we want to take the easy, the peaceful option by asking them to come for us to sit down. So what I'm saying is that the labor must understand that even when you strike for 10 years, you will finally come to the table. So the earlier they come to the table, will resolve the matter, the better it is for all of us.
The National Health Insurance Authority has begun a 2-day stakeholder dialogue on the NHIS benefits package to facilitate a comprehensive discussion which will help develop a policy framework for the NHIS.
Coming after 10 years of its suppression, the dialogue will take into consideration Ghana's experience of operating the current NHIS benefits package. The dialogue, among others, is meant to also provide a forum for discussing the sustainability, equity and evidence basis of the benefits package.
There's nothing like a static, universally accepted standard benefit package. The ILO has prescribed what it considers a minimum package, and that would also differ from one country to the other depending on the disease pattern in the country.
Chief Executive of the NHIS, Sylvester Mensah, further outlined the measures undertaken so far to ensure efficiency in the operations of the NHIS.
Well, when we talk of efficiency of the benefit package and looking at audit simply ensures that the benefit package is implemented within the context of the essential medicines list, and for that matter, the health insurance medicines list and the benefit package, and ensuring that essentially diagnosis and prescriptions correlate in a way that reflect in the prices that we pay. To that extent, we have a system that works and requires a lot more work.
The dialogue is expected to provide a forum for engaging healthcare professionals, academia, policymakers, and civil society, among others, on the NHIS benefits package.
Interestingly, whereas some consider it too generous, others suggest that the package should be further expanded to include conditions, medicines, and services currently not listed in the package. What such contrasting perspectives mean is that the time is ripe for a comprehensive discussion on the NHIS benefits package with a view to eliciting views that will help make it sustainable, equitable, and evidence-based, given the different set of circumstances of the NHIS today compared to the circumstances that prevailed at inception when the benefit package was first designed over 10 years ago.
The dialogue is expected to lead a policy framework for developing a package of health services for the NHIS.
Meanwhile, the Health Insurance Service Providers Association of Ghana, HISPAG, is threatening to withdraw its services to health insurance subscribers by the end of October if government and the National Health Insurance Authority fail to pay all debts owed them for services rendered. According to the association, the delay in settling the debt of about 100 million Ghana cedis is crippling their operations.
The issue of non-payment of outstanding claims to the Health Insurance Service Providers Association of Ghana has been of concern for some time now. HISPAG claims the government owes its members over 100 million Ghana cedis and that all efforts to get the money paid have yielded no result. The association stressed that government's refusal to pay the money will consequently lead to unrest in the health sector and the total rejection of NHIS card-bearing members. According to the executive director of the association, the current situation is crippling the activities.
We still stand by that position. That we actually going to withdraw supply of pharmaceutical products in particular to the hospitals, people who come there with health insurance cards. Now this is to say that the Chamber of Pharmacy, that is the grouping of the Pharmaceutical Society, and have given us an indication that they will not give us credit any longer. And on that note, we have to pay cash for whatever that supply they will make to us. So coming from that background, it will be very suicidal to give all drugs that we have available to the health insurance subscribers.
But the chief executive of the NHIS, Sylvester Mensah, says measures are in place to address the situation.
Oh yes, we had a number of months in arrears. We cleared a portion of the arrears, and providers are generally not satisfied with the quantum of payments they received. We are not oblivious of that. We are discussing with the Ministry of Finance. We are expecting some more releases, and we want to assure all providers that we are working to ensure that some releases are effected for payments to be made in the next couple of weeks to reduce the challenges that they are going through.
Meanwhile, the Deputy Minister of Finance, Mona Korte, has been explaining the reasons for the delay in the release of funds. She assured the monies will be made available to the association in due time.
With respect to prompt payments, it all hinges on the income that comes in and the kind of expenditure that they make. We have earmarked funds that we give to the National Health Insurance, the NHIL levy and so forth, the NHI levy as it's called. So we ensure that we send these monies to them. Sometimes we are late in doing that, I agree. However, in the recent past, we've started to pick up and we've started to send to them. So that situation should be taken care of in terms of payment to the providers.
The association, however, maintains that until these issues are critically addressed by the NHIS and the Finance Ministry, they will not rescind their decision to withdraw services come October 30. Matilda Pamagan for Joy News, Accra.
You're still watching the Primetime Bulletin here on Joy News on Multi TV and also on ABN TV across Europe. We'll take a breather here. When we return, we have more to tell you about an all-outstanding issue, water supply. Please stay. You're welcome back and many thanks for staying. Now, before we get to talk about water issues, the Driver, Vehicle and Licensing Authority on November 4 this year will launch electronic roadworthy stickers. The initiative aims to clamp down on the proliferation of fake stickers which motorists use to outwit law enforcement agencies. The new electronic stickers, according to authorities, should help rid the country's roads of rickety vehicles which somehow managed to get certified, as well as help track down stolen vehicles.
Stakeholders in the road sector, including the National Road Safety Commission, the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Ghana Police Service, and the Driver Vehicle and Licensing Authority, met the press on Thursday to outline some plans and measures to forestall road accidents in the country in the run-up to the Yuletide. Officials contend that though the road accident statistics in the country for the first 9 months of the year is an improvement over that of last year, the country still continues to record high cases of preventable road accidents.
Close to 70% of road traffic crash victims are males, leaving our wives widowed and children orphaned. Almost 55% of victims who die and suffer severe injuries that threaten their economic relevance are within the productive age bracket of 18 to 55 years. Urban and non-urban dwellers are all at risk. But what is frightening is that almost 43% of all crash victims are pedestrians, 23% are passengers, and about 6% are motorcycle riders and their pillion. This situation is worrying, but I must assure you it's reversible.
Chief Executive of the Driver Vehicle and Licensing Authority, Rudolph Beckley, was emphatic that commercial vehicles which did not meet the required specification regarding seat belts will not be licensed.
The law makes it clear that if you want to run a commercial transport business, even the sitting arrangement in the vehicle must be done in a manner that makes every passenger comfortable. Sitting arrangement simply means that the seat in front of you, the spacing must be a minimum of 70 centimeters. The seat you are going to sit on, the width of that seat must be at least 40 centimeters. If the vehicle comes to environment, and we know the loading capacity of the vehicle in terms of passengers, and it's supposed to take 19 passengers, and the seats have been fitted to 23. In the seatbelt fitting process, we would not allow those vehicles to go away from our environment with the 23 seats. It is our responsibility to ensure that the extra seats are taken out to make room for safe fitting process for the seatbelt. That I can assure you we're going to do to ensure that every passenger is comfortable in the seat.
But General Secretary of the Tiger Transport Association, Emmanuel Dankwa, is worried the time frame for the fitting of seatbelts in commercial vehicles, as announced by the DVLA, was not feasible.
Just look at the number of vehicles that we have in this country. If the DVLA or the road safety is saying that we should all fix in these seatbelts between now and June 2015, I don't see it as possible. It will be a reality, but I don't see it as possible. How many vehicles do you think they can fix the seat belts for in a day?
But Rudolph Beckley announced the authority was well prepared for the task ahead.
That we are trained and licensed and certified to do the fitting of the seat belts. Once we do that, we will get the public, especially the public transport operators, to know where those garages are. It's all part of the packages that we are coming up with. That by the end of this month, 25th October, training will start with them. So after the training, once we certify them, of course the public will know where they are, not only in Greater Accra region, but in other regions as well.
The National Road Safety Commission is meanwhile advising drivers to observe all road traffic regulations before, during and after the Christmas season to reduce the rate of road accidents during the period.
Ghanaians living in the national capital, Accra, would have to brace themselves to pay more for water. This, the Ghana Water Company Limited says, will aid it improve the services that they deliver to consumers. Director of Communications Michael Lajiman tells Joy News the earlier the increment, the better.
Water, they say, is life, and so it is a basic need in all households. The fact still remains that up to 1 billion people still lack access to safe water across the world. However, some observers have estimated that by 2025, more than half of the world's population will be facing water-based vulnerability. A lot more Ghanaians continue to go through the pain of the quest to find potable water. It gets worse in the national capital, Accra, as the Ghana Water Company Limited has failed to provide continuous access to water in some areas. Communications Director of the company, Michael Ajimai, blames consumers for paying less.
I believe that in Ghana, the cost of water is too low. I come from a rural area, and over there is community managed. If I show you the bill, I have some bills here. In my village, we pay 2 cedis for every cubic meter of water that we consume. And I'm surprised when I come to Accra here and I pay 1 cedi 70%. I wonder, because we know that rural area money is hard to come by, but they are paying 2 cedis for every cubic meter. I have the bills here, so I believe we are charging that, and that is why sometimes we are also suffering, because we are finding it difficult to actually even meet our basic cost of production.
Meanwhile, with demand of water to exceed supply by 50% by 2030 in some developing regions of the world, Ghanaians who are already experiencing a shortfall are skeptical about the revelation by authorities.
It's very bad. It's not coming at all. At all.
When was the last time you had water flowing through your pipe?
About a month ago. Sometimes when it's coming, it's dirty, it smells. We can't use it at all.
Okay. Now, are you ready to pay more to get quality service? Because that is what the Ghana Water Company is.
We are ready. We are ready to pay more if we get good service.
Why a problem toilet. Toilet in
Water is life. And with that water, how can we make it?
But the director of the Legon Center for International Affairs and Diplomacy has expressed disappointment at the slow and bureaucratic response of the African Union's Peace and Security Council to the Ebola crisis. According to Professor Henrietta Abnanya-Kumensa-Bonsu, the African Union has lost an opportunity to make a meaningful contribution towards a crisis that greatly affects its continent by allowing the United Nations Security Council to take the lead. She was speaking at the 2014 alumni lecture of the University of Ghana, Legon.
West Africa has been the worst hit by the Ebola crisis through the loss of thousands of precious lives and stigmatization that has made its citizens unappealing to the rest of the world. One would have thought that the African Union would have rallied support to help fight the menace that threatens the lives of not only West Africans, but all Africans. Unfortunately, the African Union has not been up to the task. Speaking to alumni of the University of Ghana, Professor Henrietta Abnanya-Kumensa-Bonsu explained why the African Union was restricted in its attempt to act promptly with regard to the Ebola virus.
The decision to operate through the REX puts the AU in the unenviable position of not being able to do what it purposes to do at the time it considers most appropriate, because it has no control over the execution of required activities and actions. In a crisis such as what is going on with the Ebola disease, this is somewhat disappointing. That first, it has taken the PSC this long to take a decision in principle to intervene, and second, for the details of the mission to be now worked out in consultation with various stakeholders.
But according to her, the slow response of the African Union's Peace and Security Council to the Ebola crisis is a lost opportunity to make a meaningful contribution to its people.
Ebola is waiting on no one's convenience. The support is well-intentioned, but thankfully the UN Security Council has stepped in and established a new mission to coordinate the emergency response to the outbreak. The AU has indeed lost an opportunity to take action that would have been meaningful to its suffering citizenry.
She said even though the African Union has spent close to a decade lacing its boots, it is time for it to move to a state of readiness worthy of its name. The lecture was titled The African Union's Peace and Security Architecture, a guarantor of peace and security on the continent. The 2014 alumni lecture was under the auspices of the University of Ghana and the University of Ghana Alumni Association.
The Ghana Federation of the Disabled has raised concerns over the disbursement and management of the 2% District Assembly Common Fund allotted the disabled. According to them, the difficulty that persons with disability face in accessing the fund defeats its purpose, especially when DCEs and MCEs contribute to the delay.
The president of the Ghana Federation of the Disabled, Yao Ofori Deborah, told the media in a news conference those entrusted with the fund made up of DCEs, MMCEs, municipal coordinators and others are not using the fund for its intended purpose. This has resulted in many people with disability moving back to the streets.
It is very regrettable that this otherwise very good economic measure to reduce poverty among persons with disability has not received much support from chief executives who are supposed to ensure that this government measure is actually implemented to the full benefit of persons with disability. The most important challenge is the borrowing of the common fund, or the 2%. As the executive director said, this is a minute portion of the money sent to the assemblies, but this is not always given to persons with disability who need them badly. Sometimes they tell us that, oh, the regional minister was paying a visit to us, we did not have anything and we have to borrow the money, and we promised that we will pay the money back. Meanwhile, the poor persons with disability are living in hunger. They are actually facing the hardship of life.
He contends the delay in the release of funds has also worsened the already bad situation.
I must also indicate that the late releases of the common fund of late is also doing a lot of harm to the interest of the beneficiaries, especially the students. The students depend on the fund for their user fees, for their school fees and other charges of their schooling. But when government is not releasing for the 2% to be available, then they have to put pressure on our member organizations. Of late, the releases have not been made. As we are talking now, a few weeks ago that the last quarter of 2013 was released. And now we are in the last quarter of the year, but none of the quarters for the year has been released.
The president, however, acknowledged the benefits of the fund, but urged government to pay more attention to the disbursement of the fund. Director of Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleiman Barima, also expressed concerns about the development and promised to work with the Federation to petition authorities on the issue.
It will be important for us to approach the Common Fund Administrator, talk to district chief executives, talk to the Minister for Local Government, and see what their perspectives are. Why is it that those who are abusing this fund are not being punished, and so on and so forth, rather than maybe limiting the conversation or the reporting to what happens here. From here, what we plan to do is actually to do a joint petition with the Federation. And then we would appeal to all civil society organizations, all media houses that support the cause of the persons with disability to endorse this petition. And we are simply calling on the authorities to comply with the provisions and the guidelines for the disbursement and application of these funds.
The 2% of the District Assembly's Common Fund was set up to ease the burden on persons living with disability.
Family of the late Gladys Cecilia Asma has called on the Speaker of Parliament and leadership of the House to formally inform them of the demise of the former Member of Parliament and Minister. Arrangements for her, as well as an arrangement for her funeral. Gladys Asma was one of the key members of the House during her tenure as Member of Parliament and was the first and only woman to hold the position of Deputy Leader of Parliament. She's also credited with the establishment of the Ministry of Women, Children and Social Welfare, which is now known as the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. Leaders from both sides of the House pay tribute to her. The Speaker in his tribute assured the family of Parliament's support.
I can say, even as we talk now, no woman has risen to the position of Deputy Leader of this House, apart from her. So she's still the title holder. With regards to the leadership of this House, we'll see how we, in our own small way, celebrate it. But it's very important also for the family to get a copy of the Hansard, to see how the members of the House that day, on 2nd October, see that is Asma for your own keep, for your own records. I mean, because those in the House, who were in the House at that time, who contributed that day to the statement that was made, the tribute that was paid to her, actually across the political divide, recognize her role that she played when she was in this House. So once again, I want to assure you that Parliament will be fully represented, and whatever little role we have to play to support the family, see our departed colleague off, we will do that.
May her soul continue to rest in peace. Well, up next is sports with George Addo Jr. Please stay.
Let's do some sports now. And Ghana has dropped 2 places on the latest FIFA ranking released for the month of October on Thursday, despite defeating Guinea and holding the same opponents in an away qualifying match in the month under review.
The Black Stars have also dropped 1 place in the ranking for Africa as Cape Verde have overtaken Ghana following their excellent showing in the qualifiers for the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations. The 1-1 draw with Guinea in Casablanca and the return 3-1 win at the Tamale Sports Stadium in qualifiers ensure the team are now ranked 35th. However, with points supposed to be earned from the victory at home over Guinea and the away draw, Ghana was supposed to have risen in the ranking. This will be an ammunition for critics of the FIFA World Ranking System who have questioned the formula used in deciding the best countries in the world. In Africa, Algeria remain in charge at the apex and followed by Cote d'Ivoire and Tunisia and that order. The 3 positions in the world are unchanged from last month. Germany have held onto the top spot despite the difficult start to the UEFA Euro 2016 qualification campaign. Portugal are making their first appearance in the top 10 since July. And Belgium have leapfrogged the Netherlands to 5th in achieving their highest ranking yet. Meanwhile, former table toppers Spain have slipped down as far as 10th following their defeat against Slovakia, and Switzerland's poor start in the Euro 2016 qualifiers has seen them drop out of the top 10 altogether.
Let's move away from football and talk some tennis and local tennis, because the local tennis scene will be a lot more active in the coming weeks with the introduction of the first club league in the country. The club league will feature top-ranked players from Ghana who would play alongside social players of various clubs. Clubs who will participate in the inaugural league include Sakumono, Aviation Stadium, 37 Kaneshie and Accra Lawn Tennis Clubs. Director of the National Sports Authority, Joe Penga, is excited about the initiative by the Ghana Tennis Association.
I believe the reason for this innovative idea is to keep our tennis players and potential tennis players active. It will appear that tennis has come down a little bit. I think we not too long in the not too distant past, we have gone very far. We were in a Euro-Africa zone, and but I believe we have since come down. I wouldn't say it is tennis alone, but many other sports other than football has seen a decline in fortunes.
We can now hear from the nation's female #1 tennis seed, Francisca Nyako, who told Joy Sports how the initiative might benefit tennis players in the local scene.
Before this league was launched, we were not able to play a lot of tournaments, and even if you go outside to play tournaments, you find a lot of challenges, like we are not able to win a lot of matches because you don't play a lot of tournaments, just training, and it's not the best. But I think once this league is launched, we'll be able to play a lot of tournaments every week for us to be active in order for us to reach our potential. Yeah, we actually planning to play Ladies Fed Cup. We've not been able to play Fed Cup in Ghana for the past 5-6 years, but I think this league will prepare us in order for us to play the Fed Cup, Ladies Fed Cup, so that we can get to the highest level, because it's been a long time ladies have played Fed Cup in Ghana, so I think it's very good for us too.
Certainly a wonderful league to look ahead to. That'll be ending sports tonight. My name is George Ade Jr. Certainly business is coming up next.
Good evening. It's time for business. My name is Matilda Nyakwa Kweku. Government has been called upon to pay more attention to the health insurance sector. According to the General Manager of the Nationwide Mutual Healthcare, Anthony Soa, government needs to, at a matter of urgency, develop guidelines and regulations to help manage the running of the various private schemes to ensure sanity and protect consumers. He made these comments after the launch of the company's 10th anniversary celebration.
What we are calling for is that they shouldn't lose sight of the emerging industry, and it's emerging quite quickly. When we started, we were the only ones. By the end of the first 3 years or so of operation, there were just about 3 or 4 of us. Currently, there are 24 private health insurance providers in the market. So it's emerging very quickly, and I think government should not close their eyes to that side of the industry. Regulations ought to come in. There are a lot of, right now, the only thing is for you to get registered by the NHIA and to be licensed. Beyond that, I don't see a lot of activities from the regulator. But as I said, it's because the attention is with the NHIS and not the PHI, the private health insurance companies. But I think it is high time now, as it's beginning to emerge strongly, for government to pay attention and introduce some regulatory measures to sanitize the private health insurance system.
Just one last one.
Now, leaders of Ghana and Denmark have renewed their commitment towards promoting green economies. Speaking at a plenary session dubbed Facing the Consumer at the ongoing Global Green Forum, both leaders identified a dying world among compelling reasons why green growth efforts need to be scaled up the world over.
Denmark prides itself as one of the green economies in the world. The Global Green Growth Forum is an annual assembly of high-level green growth leaders from around the world to discuss green solutions. This year's session is under the broad headline, Changing Production and Consumption Patterns Through Transformative Action. Although Denmark has done relatively well with waste management, Danish Prime Minister Helle Thorning-Schmidt says the country is pursuing greener innovations.
First of all, we have used and will use economic instruments to promote green behavior by businesses and by citizens. I want to turn to a challenge that I believe both Denmark and Ghana and many other countries face, to ensure sustainable waste management. In my own country, we have become very efficient, extremely efficient in burning our waste, which is good. And we have realized that burning all this waste also actually means burning valuable resources. And that means we have to change.
She says sustainable consumer behavior can only be reached when the citizenry is engaged in any sanitation-oriented initiatives and governments open up more to public-private partnerships.
You have to remember all households have to have systems and remember to sort out all waste, and that must become the norm in every household, that people have to sort out their waste. And that means that you also have to try to engage citizens in what you want to achieve. And of course, we have promoted public-private partnerships for plastic waste, where we seek to advance technologies that will allow us to handle our trash better and increase recycling. The more we talk about these things and the more campaigns we have that, and the more each individual understand that waste is not just waste but can be used again, that will trigger greater awareness amongst our citizens.
President John Mahama admitted there are poor and in some cases non-existent waste management systems in sub-Saharan Africa, adding a critical focus in charting a green course will be to transform consumer patterns through a mindset-changing campaign.
In many cases, they are virtually ignored because of the difficulty of enforcement. With all this in mind, Ghana has been seriously considering which strategy would be the most viable, which strategy would realistically create the change that we desire. We seem to still be indulging in our fascination with wasteful excess, our fascination with ready-made products, our fascination with instant foods, and the other things that make us feel as though we ourselves are being consumed by the leisure and luxury in our imaginations. In Ghana and throughout most of Africa, when we talk about ways to transform our consumption habits, we must also consider the mindset that informs these patterns of behavior. The mindsets that what we produce and how we were once living is somehow substandard or inferior when held up to what most developed nations produce and how they once lived.
The two leaders later went into a closed-door session. Meanwhile, President John Mahama paid a private courtesy call on the Crown Prince of Denmark, Frederik Andre Henrik Christian. We're here at the Amalienborg Castle, where the Queen and the Crown Prince lives. President John Mahama, led by the Danish Prime Minister Helle Thorning-Schmidt, has been led inside to meet with the Crown Prince. The relationship between Ghana and Denmark has been described as long-lasting in a seemingly peaceful and very clean and serene environment. The Prime Minister, Helle Thorning-Schmidt, says the cleanliness of this society is not enough, hence the need to go further. In roping in some kind of African partnership, Ghana and Ethiopia were selected in pushing forward the agenda of cleanliness. Gifty Andopia, Joy News, Denmark.
And still in business, Brazil's Catril and Safra groups have upped their bid for banana giant Chiquita after a previous offer was rejected earlier this month. The new bid of $14.50 a share value the company at about $680 million, 4% higher than the previous offer. Chiquita shares jumped 9% after the company said it would carefully review and consider the offer. The bid comes the day before Chiquita shareholders vote on a separate merger deal with the rival banana firm Frieds. If the deal first announced in March goes through, it will create the world's largest banana supplier with $4.6 billion in annual revenues. Well, that's all for business. Gifty Andopia continues with the bulletin.
In showbiz tonight, well, in another effort to help the visual arts gain grounds in the country, an art exhibition has been held in Accra to whip up interest in the visual arts. The exhibition featured works by artist Samuel Kwesi J. Monte.
The exhibition, which took place at the Arts Center in Accra, was patronized mostly by arts lovers. Apart from being an occasion to whip up interest in the arts, it was also to celebrate one of Ghana's own artists, Kwesi Ejimante.
This week, I guess and I'm sure it is Samuel Kwesi Ejimante, and I give God all the glory for what he has made.
In separate interviews with Showbiz, some artists spoke about the pitfalls in the industry and how it can be addressed.
Unfortunately, one, the economic situation, people do not have disposable income to spend on art. But I see that even as secondary, the major problem we have as artists is a non-appreciation of art by Ghanaians. People look at the paintings and sometimes they will ask you, in our local dialect, the appreciation is very, very low. Therefore, one, they do not know what to do with it. So we putting our program in place, talking to our young ones, student artists from SHS to the tertiary, encouraging them that is a noble profession, that when you take it up, you can make it, and artists are not ordinary people. Artists are deep people, celebrated people.
We also need a national gallery, somewhere that we can showcase what has been done over the years, and which helps us to identify ourselves as Ghanaians, or Africans. And you travel to certain developed countries, and they have national galleries, and these galleries have tourists, they have visitors who patronize to look at what has been going on in that society, and they pay to get in, and the state collects revenue from these attendances. So we need to emulate what they are doing outside the world, so that we can also bring in revenue.
The Ghana Association of Visual Artists, however, throw in an open invitation to all artists, interior decorators, carvers, weavers and porters across the country to join the association as a means of reviving the arts in Ghana.
Well, let's wrap up now with a look again at our top stories. NPP flag bearer has confirmed economist and central banker Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia as his running mate for the 2016 presidential elections. Health workers at public hospitals have suspended outpatient care as public sector workers strike over Tier 2 pension contributions enters day 2. Meanwhile, health insurance service providers are threatening to deny services to NHIS subscribers by October 30 unless government pays them outstanding claims of about 100 million Ghana cedis. And Driver and Vehicle Licensing Authority is to reintroduce electronic roadworthy certificate as it seeks to make its issuance more foolproof. Also, the director of Legon Center for International Affairs has criticized the African Union's response to the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. There's more news at myjoyonline.com and multitvworld.com. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. Up next is PM Express with Nana and Sakwa. Please stay tuned.